Ir šiandienos tema bus pilna pavyzdžių, kaip priešiškai nusiteikusių šalių vyriausybės palaikomas įsilaužėlių grupuotės, kaip jos veikia, kokius nuostolius tai atneša, kaip bandoma nuo to apsisaugoti ir kokie sprendimai iš tiesų veikia. Šiandienos pranešėjas Danielė Brisgan, mūsų partnerio Fox IT konsultantas. Jis daug metų dirba IT saugumo srityje ir pristatys gamintojo Fox IT būdus kovoti su gerai finansuojamomis ir nacionalizmo vedamomis įsilaužėlių grupuotėmis. Šie būdai ypatingai efektyvūs, nors yra techniškai paprasti. Noriu informuoti dar, kad klausimus galite rašyti viso pristatymo metu čia skiltyje, o jo atsakymus juos pateiksime pristatymo pabaigoje. Daniela, I have made a brief introduction and the screen is yours now.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm really proud to be here, to be able to actually interact with some people during this coronavirus situation. I believe you just gave a short introduction about myself, I guess, and a little bit of the company, I believe, right? So
yes. A little bit of what we will talk tonight.
Yes. All right. So am I sharing the screen now? Is everyone seeing what I see, or do I need to?
Yes, we can see it.
You can see it. All right. Okay. So yes, this is gonna be the topic for today: how to protect yourself against state actors. I have a small agenda here for us. I'm gonna go through who we are, who Fox IT is actually, what do we do, where we are, and then I'm gonna dive immediately into the challenges and explaining what state actors are and why should be concerned about state actors, regardless the nature of your business. We believe that you should always be concerned about this. I'm gonna share with you three real stories about state actors. One of which we were involved in. Fox IT was directly involved in one of the cyber attack that occurred in China from a Chinese state actor. Then I'm going to discuss what companies are using nowadays to protect themselves and their networks. That will be the firewall. And then I'm going to explain our solution, what it does, which is the DataDiode. So I'm gonna give you an overview of what our product does and how can be used efficiently to prevent cyber attacks, but especially being protected from state actors. All right. So and then we're gonna have a few minutes for questions. So please let's keep all the questions in the end. Probably you will have some questions. Hopefully I'm gonna cover everything you need to know throughout my presentation, but if that's not the case, please ask away, but wait till the end. All right, so let's get started. I hope you have enough coffee and enough water with you. Stay hydrated, it's really important. So here we go. Fox IT, what do? We do pretty much everything related to cybersecurity. So we do cybersecurity reviews, penetration tests, vulnerability scans, cyber forensics. So when something happens, we are the cybersecurity CSI sort of company that investigates on accidents or incidents, should I call them, and where we're trying to understand who did it, how did they do it, what was stolen or what was destroyed in some cases, okay, how they got out of, how they got around the current security measures, and so on and so forth. High assurance, we have also Fox Academy, so we have students from all over the country coming to our company to attend seminars for their education, cybersecurity oriented education, and much more. I'm proud to say that I believe Fox IT is mostly known for the DataDiode. We are the only company worldwide that has the highest certification level when it comes to security. For our DataDiode, I'm going to spend a few words towards the end of the presentation about that. So let's dive into it. That's where we are. We are based in the Netherlands. For the ones who didn't know, we have Amsterdam here, and we are the way down here next to The Hague. So what are the challenges that we are presented with every time customers and partners like Blue Bridge come to us? It's really simple. We mostly serve two branches of the market, government and industry. It always comes down to protect information. Government situations we are calling secrets and intellectual property, while with the industry we are talking about assets. But it's really all about protecting information, right? Making sure that the information is uploaded somewhere safe, which is not the cloud, by the way. So we make sure that the information is uploaded somewhere safe and the information never gets out from that specific network, which we call the secure network, okay? But before going in through ins and outs of the product itself, I want to talk, like I said, about state actors, okay? What are they, all right? So the definition is that the state actor is a person who is acting on behalf of a governmental body, all right? So in cybersecurity, you need to picture state actors as the super nerdy version of the 007 agent, okay? So I'm trying to be funny here, but I put a picture of Hackerman. That's not really, for the ones who saw the TV series iRobot, I believe. He is not, well, I watched only season 1, but he's not, in my opinion, he's not a state actor. He's just a hacker. State actors are professional hackers, we can call them, that are founded by government. So why should we be concerned about that? Well, these people, in my opinion, well, which is not only mine, it's everyone's opinion if you work in cybersecurity, these people are the most dangerous people on the planet when it comes to cybersecurity, okay? Why? Just because they have the government backing up their shoulders, okay? Having the government behind your shoulders means that you have infinite access to money and resources, basically. Plus, as we all know, probably they are acting from their basement, from their homes, from wherever. They just need a few pieces of hardware, really, which is sadly not even that expensive. They are very knowledgeable on building ad hoc software. They have all the time and money in the world to come up with these pieces of software that they will use to perform their attacks, right? They have no time limitations, usually. They operate whenever they feel like. They hardly need to move around to perform their attacks. There are a few exceptions, and I'm going through one of those in a second. And pretty much they're invisible. They look like you and me, really. They don't look like especially dangerous. They just look like normal people with a computer, with an internet connection and a few pieces of hardware, and that's all they need to attack, to perform their attacks. And because of the internet and the interconnections, they can attack from anywhere in the world to everywhere in the world, right? They don't need to be, with some exceptions, they don't need to be physically close to their target. So we're talking about virtual soldiers. They can be anywhere, they can attack anytime, right? And it's really hard to trace them back, right? So they have virtually access to any network if they're good enough. and if they are good enough, it's going to be potentially virtually impossible to catch them, right? So I'm going to repeat this point later on. The point is not to like identify them, not to be like ready to catch them. The point is be secure, be protected. No matter who is attacking you, you need to be sure that you have security measures in place that guarantee that your data will never be leaked by your secure network or destroyed, you know, depending on which are your priorities, okay? For example, most of the time, when it comes to government and industry, the top priority is about protecting the data. Protecting the data in a way that the data doesn't leak, that it doesn't get published on the interweb, right? So that competitors or other governments do not know what you're up to, right? Especially with governments, you don't want to get all your information up there so that other countries, I'm not going to name any of them, but other countries can access your data, understand what your government is doing, and act subsequently. So that's not a good idea. We have other scenarios where data integrity is more important than data leakage. So, for example, I've seen some setups with law enforcement entities like police, where it's okay if the data gets out on the web, data about investigations, okay? But it's not okay if that data gets destroyed. So you're leading, for example, a very important investigation. You want to make sure that all the data that you need to perform your investigation is always there, right? You don't want hackers getting into your network and destroy all your data, nullifying pretty much all your investigations, okay? So most of the time, it's all about protecting data in a way that you don't want the data to get out, but you also need to think about the importance of making sure that the data never gets destroyed, all right? Again, I'm going to repeat this towards the end. It's going to make more sense to you towards the end of the presentation, so hold on. All right, so back to state actors. I want to go through 3 real-life events that happened not too long ago, all right? I want to explain briefly what happened, and then in the end, I want to show you how all of this could have been easily prevented with the use of the DataDiode, okay? You're going to realize what the DataDiode is, and I'm going to make sure that what the concept is. I want to explain to you the concept, which is really easy, and it has nothing to do with sales pitch. Okay, I'm not a salesperson. I just want you to know the basic concept of the DataDiode, and I'm pretty sure you will automatically understand without me needing to push you that information in your brain. I'm pretty sure you will understand why DataDiodes are important in nowadays cybersecurity. Okay, so let's start with the December 2015's Ukrainian power grid cyber attack. Oh, sorry, I need to. Oh, okay, it was a little bit slow. So as it says here, and you can find all this information on the interweb. This is considered to be the first known successful cyber attack on a power grid, carried out through a few phases. Okay, so I guess someone decided that one nuclear disaster was not enough, and state actors allegedly performed out this attack. And I think they just wanted to send a message, right? Because if you read towards the end of the slide, the damage was not incredibly high, but I guess they just wanted to send a message. All right. So, how did it happen? Actually, it happened in a very, scaringly enough, it happened in a very easy way. All right. They used super common spear phishing emails with some malware called Black Energy. You can Google it if you want. I'm not going to go through all the details. And I'm saying this just to be cool because I'm not, super, how you call it, educated on hacking stuff. I know how to protect myself against them, but I wouldn't be able to perform the same actions that they do. So thanks to this malware that was implanted through spear phishing emails, they managed to seize the control of the SCADA platform. Okay, SCADA is supervisory control and data acquisition. Pretty much is like a virtual platform where you can control. It's used in industry, so machineries and stuff like that. And it's a platform where you can control remotely physical elements like switches, control panels, and so forth. Okay, and you also do monitoring. Okay, so you monitor, I don't know, pipe pressures or whatever is important to monitor in a power grid. Okay, so once they get control over the platform, what they did was a couple of things really, but the most important thing is that they kind of seized control and made sure that nobody else, no other admin, could be able to access the platform and stop them. Okay, this is very dangerous. So you get in as an admin, you kick out every other admin potentially by just changing the password or stuff like that. I don't know. And after that, what they did was switching off the substations. We are talking about power grid substations, so stations that provide energy to the whole country and much more. So the bomb goes off, right? After kicking out every other admin from this platform, they started disabling and destroying IT infrastructure components, all right? So UPS, modems, commutators, RTUs, and so on and so forth. They destroyed files stored on servers and workstations with some malware called kill disk. And then, because they were not satisfied enough, they also managed to carry out a DOS attack, denial of service attack, onto the call center, so that people that wanted to complain about the absence of, electrical energy could not reach the call center to, report the accident. So eventually, 30 substations were switched off, and about 230,000 people were left without electricity for a period ranging from 1 to 6 hours. So at the beginning, it looks like the damage was not huge. Well, I'm still thinking about Chernobyl, of course. I was a kid when that happened, and I believe that left a sign in my childhood because to me that was incredibly scary. What happened? Radiation killing people, like this invisible evil thing that was just killing people, and it was unstoppable, right? So I always compare, when I hear about accidents with power grids and nuclear stations, I always compare those accidents to Chernobyl because I'm scared. So everything compared to Chernobyl seems small to me. But if you read into the data, we may be talking about hospitals. We may be talking about structures that need power energy to save lives, to assist people, to do whatever is necessary to, help humanity move forward. And believe me, 6 hours of no electricity, assuming that UPS of those structures were also not working, depending on what kind of UPS you had. But I believe you can be independent to power grids until a certain point, and then you're also, how can I say it in technical terms? You're also in trouble, right? So even though it was just the power going up for a number of hours, the potential damage behind this action could have been disastrous, could have been huge. Okay? So, enough of this power grid cyber attack. I don't want to scare you enough. Actually, I want to scare you because I believe we should all be scared about state actors, regardless what kind of business we are trying to protect. Okay, and you are going to understand why I'm trying to scare you at the end of this presentation. All right. By the way, like I said, it's all really you can all find this on the internet. I advise you to actually Google these 3 events or other events involving state actors. Okay, it's a very interesting read, in my opinion, and would make you understand how real and close to you the threat may be. All right. So now we have the second event. This was really close to home. Was really close to Fox IT as well, like physically. It was in the city next to Fox IT, really. So what happened? 4 state actors, a car full of electronic equipment, and a plot to hack the world's foremost chemical weapons watchdog. So we're talking about OPCW. I always forget what it stands for. Actually, now I'm going to, let me see, can I share my screen? I want to show you something from the web. Let me see. I should be able to. Oh no. Okay, I believe I'm. Okay, I'm not able to share because I'm using a non-supported browser. Yeah. Okay. So I cannot do it. Otherwise, I should. How you call it, log off and log on again. So this is not going to work. So apologies for this. I will try to picture the whole story just with my words and with my hands. But you can Google it. So if you are actually, I advise you to just Google it now, OPCW attack. And then you will see the whole story. You will see the picture of these people that carried out the attack. You will see all the details. Again, it's a very interesting read. It's not, how you call it? It's not technical at all. Everyone can understand it. And it looks like reading like the script of a 007 movie, but it's real. Okay, I want you to understand that this is real. We are not making this up so that we can increase our sales. This stuff is real. Okay, so back to the story. We are talking about 4 state actors, which they were traveling with diplomatic passport, I guess. So they could kind of, sorry. So they flew from Russia. Okay, they are Russian. They flew to the Netherlands. They landed in our international airport of Schiphol, and they were traveling with diplomatic passport. That doesn't really, it's not really relevant because even though you may assume that the security checks are lighter on these people, it doesn't really matter. They could have flown like normal people, really, without getting caught. Why? Because all the hardware that they used, it's stuff that you can buy at Amazon or any hardware shop for cheap. Actually, I looked up the prices. Honestly, it's not even costly to be a state actor, depending on what you're trying to do, of course. But they bought simple stuff like modems, like antennas, like batteries, laptops. So it's not like specific hardware. It's stuff that you find everywhere, right? And it's not suspicious. So if you have like your luggage full of modems, computers, batteries, nobody's gonna be suspicious. You know, you're not carrying weapons. You're not carrying strange objects or unidentified objects. You just look like an IT guy doing his job. You know. So what was the so they could land. My point is, they could land in Amsterdam without having too much of a problem. You know, they were just. There's a picture. If you have Googled it, meanwhile, I hope you did. If you scroll down a little bit, there's a picture of these 4 or 5 Russians just, walking really relaxed in Amsterdam airport. So you will see that I'm not really lying on or trying to make this story even more scary. So what was the goal? Compromising and disrupting the OPCW computers. So we're talking about this entity which controls chemical weapons usage all over the world. So it's really important that these guys are able, and I'm talking about OPCW, it is really important that they are able to do their job without disruption, right? Otherwise, well, it's quite a mess, right? When we're talking about chemical weapons, so the plan was really simple: hire a car. In this case, they took a Citroen C3. Not that it's relevant. And they physically scouted the area around the building. Okay, so they were doing these reconnaissance tours with photographs and stuff like that. When they gathered enough information, they decided to park the car in a parking lot in a hotel nearby and perform the attack from the car. Okay, sounds like a very cheap 007 plot movie, but that's what they did, and that's all you need to do. All you need to do when you have such job, it's really easy to carry out. You just need enough knowledge, which nowadays you can gather very easily on the web, right? You can become a hacker probably in a couple of years, and just by checking YouTube videos, really. So what was I saying? Yes, so they were performing their attack from the car. Okay, so the idea was to break in from to gain access by using the Wi-Fi. Oh, sorry, my computer locked. Nothing happened. Okay, so the aim was to use the Wi-Fi that they created in the car. So they created a SSID and try to well, they didn't really create an SSID, but they tried to access with their Wi-Fi equipment. They tried to access the OPCW network and trying to get access from via Wi-Fi, right? And after that, after gathering all the necessary information or destroying all the necessary information, the plan was to flee to Switzerland by train and then, I guess, fly back to Russia. Luckily enough, the group was being continually monitored by the intelligence services. In the Netherlands, we are super serious about security, and that's how every country should act, in my opinion. But luckily enough, we were good enough to stop these people, to monitor and identify these people, and stop them before the damage was done. Again, just read the article. There are a lot of pictures. It's kind of interesting, but luckily for us, this is a story with a happy ending, so no damage was done. But still, you see how easy. Forget that they failed. Do you see how easily they could have done this? If they were a little bit more careful, again, I don't know how, but if they were a little bit more careful and maybe more intelligent, they could have performed. They could have caused millions of damage. I'm not kidding, millions of damage, just with Citroen C3, a bunch of antennas, a bunch of batteries, and a few laptops. Do you see? Do you get my point now? If you didn't, let's go through the next and last example. I'm really proud of this one because, as you can see, Fox IT was involved in the process. Sadly, when the attack was already performed, but we were able to mitigate and to mitigate the further attacks and avoid further damage thanks to top-notch cybersecurity guys that work with us. So I was not directly involved. I'm not that smart and knowledgeable, honestly, but I'm proud to say that my colleagues actually were able to limit the damage and run all the necessary investigation to in this specific case. So we're talking about Chinese-based state actors. All right. So apologies if I say Chinese state actors. I am assuming that they were Chinese, but well, I guess they were really Chinese, or at least they were fluent in Chinese, because what's Wocao? It's actually a curse word that one of the state actors used or typed in their web shell after realizing that his access or her access to the victim network was completely blocked. So he just, out of frustration, he cursed and said Wocao, which we assume, well, we know for sure that it's a curse word in Chinese. I don't know what that means, but well, you can guess it. So these state actors were behind attacks that were performed in other 10 countries all over the world. I remember Brazil, maybe France, and so but it was all scattered all over the world. So they were, well, they knew what they were doing, definitely. It was not the first time, for sure. Again, if you Google this, please do it. You will. The first result you will get is our website, and you can download the PDF of the report. So it's both technical and non-technical. So if you have a limited understanding of the technical stuff, just skip it. But it's really interesting to see how the investigation were carried out, all the information that our colleagues were able to gather so quickly in order to actually mitigate the attack and identify, partially identify the identity of the state actors. So what was the modus operandi? It's always the same stuff, guys, really. It's about establishing a foothold via, in this case, hacking vulnerable servers. I forgot what they were attacking, but I think it was a governmental body. I think. So they accessed the net. They managed to access the network remotely and used some vulnerabilities for some servers in their advantage. Okay. After accessing those servers, they were able to upload their own web shells. So custom-made software that they were going to use to perform the attack. Okay. Then they did something called the lateral movement. So once you establish your presence in the network, then you move like this. What does this mean? You sniff for data. You monitor data, and if you're lucky enough or good enough, you'll be able to gather important, well, relevant credentials from like memory dumps, password managers, and so on and so forth, you know. Funny enough, what I see sometimes is that all the how you call it, all the protection is put on the edge between the network that you want to protect and the internet. So all the protections is in between, but once you get in, then looks like people forget about security, you know. Looks like, I see it very often, it looks like people assume that you're protected enough if you believe that nobody can enter your network. The problem is, when you have this mindset, when people actually access your network, your low security network, then you are toast. You are, well, screwed, right? And this is exactly what happened. It's unbelievable that this still happens, but thanks to vulnerabilities, thanks to non-secure software like password managers and stuff like that, these people were able to gather the credentials in order to access multiple systems within the network. And most importantly, they gathered VPN access. So this is scary, guys, because what they do, once they gathered the VPN access, they were able to connect to the victim's network by accessing the VPN. So they were kind of connecting as if they were admins or employees or whatsoever. So they were accessing the network in a non-suspicious way, like the same way that people that work there would do, right? So they didn't even have to hide their, identity, because they were, using, for example, my credentials to get in, and so on and so forth. They use, though, an interesting technique called two-factor authentication abuse. So, nowadays you receive a password on your phone whatsoever. So I'm explaining this in a very easy terms. What they did was really remarkable. Okay, these guys were really good, in my opinion. And thanks to the cracking the two-factor authentication process, they were able to maintain the VPN connection steadily. Okay, so that they didn't need to log in every now and then, because as soon as you see suspicious activity, maybe those credentials would be reset and stuff like that. So they avoided that. So they created this bridge, this access, this channel, and leave it on continuously on in order to perform their attack. And once they got in, of course, you implement backdoors. So implement ways that will give you access in the future should your main way of accessing the victim network be disabled, like resetting passwords or disabling VPN access and stuff like that. They used a bunch of tools to gain full access through compromised system. So they would, they would upload and install proprietary software that would grab the data from the corporate network and sends it out to a web server that they previously purchased before the attack, so that they could, upload the information to the cloud, to their own cloud. And if you read the article, you will see that we gathered all this information about the domain they bought and the name that they used, and all this sort of stuff. We could gather all this information. So again, it's a happy ending story, but not too much, because like I said, people believe that if you have the strongest firewall in the world, then you don't need to be bothered to protect the network behind the firewall. You're betting all your money onto the firewall, assuming that nobody will get through. And now I'm going to show you, in a bit, why the firewall is not good enough. So let's make a recap, okay? So let's look at the center of this slide. We have the black network, which is, so usually this is the setup that we see with our customer. You have a bigger, less safe network, which is the black network in this case, where your users are and some servers are, and so on and so forth. And then you have, so now the drawing is a little bit misleading, but then you have like the red network, which is physically separated by the black network. So it's not inside the black network, even though sometimes it is, but I don't have time to disclose all the details. But you have to imagine the red network like a separate network, separated by everything. And by separated, I mean also physically. So they don't have access to other networks. They don't have access to the internet, but they need to be connected somehow. Why? Because users from the black network need to be able to upload the relevant data into the red network. So there must be a connection there, some sort of connection. And most of the time, what we see is the connection is made via the firewall, right? So let's do a recap. So we see hackers from the outside. They access through the interweb via phishing emails, Trojan horses, and malware and whatsoever, or they access through Wi-Fi. So they are physically close to the target network, like our Russian example, But the modus operandi is the same. They try to gather access, upload something malicious, bypass the firewall, all right, get access to information in the black network, and that information will be used to then bypass the security measures provided by the second firewall and eventually get access to the red network and potentially be able to upload the data from the red network to the outside world, or destroy the data. Okay, so as much as I like firewalls, because I am a network guy, okay, I love firewalls, but firewalls are not good enough. Why? There are advantages, of course. Everything is automated. So we are coming from the days where we had air gap. So there was no firewall. There were two networks, and we had one IT guy walking back and forth, copying the data on a CD from the black network and storing the data in the, getting the data from the black network and storing it in the red network, destroying the CD, and back and forth. Okay, so that was not very efficient. Sadly, this is still used, but that's another story. So the next solution, proper solution, is the firewall. Okay, so it's automated. You don't need a guy walking in between networks. Low latency and high bandwidth, because you have a network connection between the two networks, and it's pretty much flexible. So you can configure it the way you want it. You have full control of what's going on, and so on and so forth. The disadvantages is that it's prone to misconfiguration. So there's always going to be like a person like me configuring the firewall. So maybe that day I didn't sleep well enough or whatsoever, didn't drink enough coffee. I do something wrong. I misconfigured the firewall. And sometimes when you make mistakes, you realize it when it's too late. You realize it after months, after you see that data was stolen, or some access was, unintended access happened. So people that were not allowed to access the network, they did it, and so on and so forth. So you make mistakes, you don't realize it right away, and potentially this will cause data breach in your for your customer or company you work for. It requires also firmware updates. So the firewall has onboard intelligence. They run, let's say, their own operative system on top of the hardware, right? And that requires firmware update. So we all know, if you're IT as me, we hate these kind of things. Like, it's important that we perform firmware update, but then you never know if things will be as they were before. So you need to test again if everything is fine, make sure that there are no new security breaches, or that there are no bugs that allows or makes your solution less secure. Okay, and that brings me to the point where it increases the total cost of ownership. So sometimes maybe money are not really put in those kind of projects, because IT stuff, who cares? There's a lot of ignorance about IT, unfortunately. So some companies still believe that IT is not relevant. As long as the printer works, we are all happy. That's the biggest problem for some people, printers. So so sometimes there's no resource to actually perform this operation, meaning that things may go wrong. Maybe some updates are not carried out, and your solution is old, outdated, and can't protect you anymore. Or sometimes the update breaks the firewall itself. Okay. Sometimes there are some firewalls that they have this safety failover, where if something goes wrong on the firewall level logic, the firewall stops acting like a firewall and becomes a switch. So your connection is still there. Okay, you can still upload data, okay, and get data, but the firewall doesn't provide security anymore. It's just a dumb switch with little to no intelligence and absolutely no control over the data flow and access. Okay, and the firewall, because it has intelligence, because it was made by people like you and me, it means that any logic, any intelligent software can be broken, can be hacked by some more intelligent people or some more intelligent software. Okay, and can contain backdoors. Maybe I'm a very frustrated IT person. I just implement backdoors because I believe that the company is about to fire me, so I want to take my revenge once I get out. So it's always up to human beings, and that's where the problem is. Okay, Sorry if I'm offending some of you, but well, all of you, I assume everyone is human, but it is what it is. This is the reality, okay? So how do we fix this? Well, I'm glad you asked. We put a DataDiode. So as you can see, I didn't go to art school, but this is how we protect the red network from the outside, okay? So we are still using a firewall here because, of course, we need two-way communication between the outer world and the private network. But here, our DataDiode, what does it do? It does one job, and it does it perfectly. It allows the data from the black network to get in the red network, but it prevents the data to get out. How does it do that? Well, it's a layer 1 device. It has no intelligence. It's a very dumb product, right? It is. It has no intelligence. It's just this very expensive, engineered one-way cable, right? That allows the physical signal, when I'm talking about fiber optic, so allows the light to go from left to right, but not from right to left. Okay, there's no intelligence, there's no software, there's nothing. There's just this one cable that does the job. Okay, it's not super easy because cables do not understand direction, so there's a lot of engineering inside the box that we sell. Okay, but the concept is super easy. Everyone can understand. It's like a diode, electrical diode. It's a component that is used in our in our hardware appliances. So we didn't invent anything, so the concept was there. We just made the same thing. We brought it to another level where now the data, so not only electricity, but the data itself, which is in a way, based also on electricity and light. So the data can go from A to B, but not from B to A. Okay, so there's another example where, for example, you want to put the DataDiode in the other direction. So it's okay if, so in this case, the data can only go from the red network to the black network. Sometimes this is acceptable, okay? So you don't care if someone from the red network wrongly publishes the data outside in the black network and potentially all over the internet, okay? You don't care about that. Maybe you're, it's police investigations that, doesn't matter if it goes out in the public, I don't know. But what you're concerned with is that you don't want anyone from the outside, whether it's internet or the black network, to get in, access the data, and destroy it, okay? Because in the previous example, so the DataDiode is a very dumb product. It doesn't know what kind of data is passing. All it knows is that data can only go from this direction to this direction, so from this point to this point and not vice versa, okay? So in this case, you're still able to, if you want, to upload malware, to upload virus, and to, potentially destroy data. You will never know because you will never get the feedback from the red network, so you don't know if what you're doing is working, but it could work, okay? Of course, there are solutions for this, so you can sanitize the data before sending it to the DataDiode. This is not something we provide. Our partners do that. All we do, our security proposition or our DataDiode's security proposition is guaranteeing on a hardware level that the data will go from A to B, but not from B to A, okay? So what are the advantages? First of all, you see that there are no disadvantages, so everyone should buy DataDiode. But it's automated and fast, like a firewall. It's certified to the highest level. We are the only company in the world that provides the highest level of certification for our DataDiode. I'm running out of time, so I cannot really explain what this entitles, but please contact us if you're interested. But we have the highest security standards from the production moment to the delivery. So it's not only the DataDiode itself. All these standards need to be met from the manufacturing of the device till the delivery of the device. So we also need to make sure that, for example, the device doesn't get manipulated, doesn't get screwed or whatever throughout the transition. So you know that when you receive the device, is the same device that were shipped to you from our company. Okay, so no manipulation was done throughout the delivery, and it's unhackable. It's pure hardware. How do you hack up a cable? You can't. You can destroy it, but you cannot really change the behavior of the cable. The cable it's just a cable, you know. So we can talk about sabotage, but that means that our 007 or our state actor needs to be physically in front of the data diode, needs to know what it's doing, needs to have all the intelligence, all the information regarding how the data diode was built, and try very quickly to change the data diode behavior. Needless to say, this never happened, right? And because of its pure hardware, so you don't need to update a cable, right? That means that there's low cost, total cost of ownership. Once you install it, and you can forget about it. Okay. There are other components in place called proxy servers. So we are running some software to manage the data flow. Okay. To make sure that the data gets safely from A to B. But even if you hack that software, even if you take full control of the servers that are running this software, you cannot possibly change the way that the data diode behaves. It's just not possible, okay? The only thing that you can do is breaking if you're frustrated. But guess what? And I'm really proud to say this, and this should be like the bread and butter of your sales presentation if you're trying to resell our data diode. Our data diode works even if it's broken, right? So if the data diode breaks, yes, it means that you cannot transfer the data from the black network to the red network. So that is a problem, yes. But if the data diode breaks, means that there's no physical connection between the two networks, meaning that the data in the red network still will be protected. Nobody can possibly get the data out because the only existing bridge to the outside world is broken. So I don't know how many other products can still provide their proposition. In this case, we're talking about security proposition. I don't know how many products can still provide the services that you bought them for, even when they are switched off or broken. I believe this is amazing, right? So let's see. So yes. So these are the just to recap. Okay, this is the OSI layers. Okay, we should be all familiar with this picture. So we have 7 layers from physical to user layer. So the security propositions that are what the options that are in the market right now are 3: air gap, so the guy walking between the two networks, firewall, and DataDiode. So as you can see, these solutions work on different levels. So the point here is that if your solution works on multiple levels, means that it's attackable, it may be vulnerable on multiple levels. So the air gap is all about user and application. The firewall, depending on the model, can go from data link, so MAC address sort of attacks, to all the way up to application sort of attacks, right? Because firewall run operative system, which can be considered as application. So if it's an application, it has logic and can be broken, can be hacked, okay? And then we have the data diode, which is, as you can see here, working only on a physical level. Again, it's a very expensive, intelligently engineered one-way cable. That's it. That's what we are selling you, all right? And this is our bad boy. I just have one picture, but there's not a lot to show, honestly. It's a 1U device, so very easy to install. It's not even that deep, so it's really nice and easy to install. Like I said, this is the power supply. This is like a data connection, power supply connection, and this is the data diode itself. So this little box provides all the security, network security that you need. Okay, it's amazing, right? We have some lights in the front, and the connections are on the back. The connections are on a fiber optic. Okay, so that's how we could, because it's easier to split this the sending and receiving signal with fiber optic cables, really. So we just take one half of the cable and we make sure that only that part of the cable is used to send data, and then there's some more intelligence on top of it that prevents the data from going from the red network to the black network. But really, that's it. Layer 1 device, just a very expensive, super intelligent cable, super engineered cable that does one job: preventing data from allowing data to go from A to B and not vice versa. That's it. That's it. That's all it needs to do. It does it perfectly. It works 100% of the time. This is not sales pitch. By now, you must have understood that how the DataDiode works, right? It just does one job. It's just one cable, okay? So yeah, yes, of course, it may break, like everything else. I'm not gonna lie, some of our DataDiodes break. This new model actually has a breakage ratio really small. Actually, this is our new model. The previous one was was more prone to to fall. This one is really reliable, but again, if it breaks, like I said, it still works. Your data is still protected. Your data is not going anywhere, So by the time maybe it will take you a couple of hours to replace the DataDiode. Oh, by the way, if you have another spare DataDiode, you can just install it, switch the cables, boom, no configuration, no nothing. So you can literally replace a faulty DataDiode. Assuming that you have a spare unit, you can replace a faulty DataDiode in a matter of minutes. But regardless of how long it takes, even if it takes 4 hours, 3 days, you know that in that time frame, nothing has happened to your network. No data escaped your secure network. And I think this is just great. Okay? So I believe this will take me to the end of my presentation. I believe I'm like kind of on time. So yes.
Okay, so thank you, Daniel, for this presentation. Very interesting examples, and maybe some viewers have questions for IT. Okay, see there is no questions at the moment. So if you have more questions, you can write to main Bluebridge email, and we will forward it to Fox IT, and we'll answer it for you if we don't know the answer. So thank you, Daniel, again.
Yes, it was a pleasure.
And I now will switch to Lithuanian.
Yes, sure.
Okay, so tai nepamirškite užsiregistruoti ir kitus mūsų webinarus. Rytoj bus Bluebridge webinaro tema hibridinis darbo modelis, saugumo rizikos ir būtinos priemonės. Tai galite rasti nuorodas mūsų puslapyje. Tai dėkui, kad klausėte ir iki.